You are standing in your bathroom at 7:30 in the morning, holding a tube of sunscreen. You paid $42 for it at Sephora. You know you should use it. You've read enough to know sunscreen is the one step that actually does something about aging, and yet you set it back on the shelf. It's too thick. It balls up under your makeup. By noon, you look like you're sweating through a film of paste. So, you skip it. Again. And the $42 tube sits there, mostly full, quietly accusing you. Here's what I need you to know. That problem is not sunscreen. That problem is that specific formula. And there are 8 Korean sunscreens that would have you reaching for that tube every single morning without a second thought, most of them under $16, that the Western beauty conversation has almost completely ignored. I'm saving the wildest one for the end. When you hear it, I think you'll understand why I built the whole list around it. But hold on to that. Before we get into the 8, I want you to carry one idea through this entire video, because it changes how you shop for everything from here on out. In the beauty industry, you pay for 2 entirely different things at once. You pay for the formula inside the bottle, and you pay for the theater of the brand, the packaging, the Sephora shelf, the magazine placement, the celebrity association, the sense that someone who matters has curated your life for you. And here's the thing. Those 2 costs have almost nothing to do with each other. A formula costs roughly what it costs to develop and manufacture. The theater costs whatever someone decides to charge for it. Korean sunscreen became interesting to me, and I have been inside this industry long enough to have opinions about it, precisely because the theater has been deliberately kept small. The development has not. That gap is what we are here to discuss. In Korea, sunscreen is regulated as a functional cosmetic, not as a drug the way the FDA classifies it in the United States. That regulatory difference is not just administrative paperwork. It means Korean brands have had access to a wider generation of UV filters for decades. Filters that are lightweight, photostable, and engineered to feel like skincare rather than like a product you're enduring. The FDA has proposed adding its first new approved UV filter in over 25 years, possibly by late 2026. Korean formulators have been working with that generation of filters since the 1990s. Think about what that means for 25 years of formula development. Now, the list. Starting at number 1, Tokobo Bio Watery Sun Cream SPF 50 PA. Tokobo is a brand that most people I know in Western skincare markets have walked right past because the name sounds invented, and the packaging is the blue and white kind that whispers budget in the wrong direction. That's a mistake worth correcting. Tokobo's Bio Watery Sun Cream uses a filter combination that is genuinely unusual in the Korean sunscreen world. Most of the popular Korean sunscreens you'll see talked about are manufactured by a single contract manufacturer called Kolmar Korea, which supplies something close to 70% of the Korean sunscreen market. Tokobo went to a different supplier, and the filter stack they landed on, which includes Mexoryl SX, a filter you typically associate with high-end French pharmacy brands, and L'Oreal, is unexpectedly sophisticated for a formula that runs around $12 to $15 for 50 milliliters. The finish is velvet, not dewy, which matters if you have combination or oily skin. The formula isn't particularly moisturizing on its own, so if your skin skews dry, layer your moisturizer underneath. But if you've been losing the sunscreen battle because every formula you try turns your face into a light source by noon, this one is where you start looking. Number 2. Purito Daily Soft Touch Sunscreen SPF 50 Plus PA. I want to be honest with you about Purito, because this brand has a history you deserve to know. In 2020, Purito's original best-selling sunscreen, the Centella Green Level Unscented Sun, was independently tested and found to have an actual SPF of around 19, not the 50 plus on the label. That was a significant failure, and the fallout shook trust in Korean sunscreens broadly, which is something I watched happen in real time. What happened next is the part that belongs on this list. Purito pulled the product, changed manufacturers, rebuilt the formula entirely, and now subjects their sunscreens to independent third-party SPF testing before release. The current Daily Soft Touch sunscreen is a categorically different product, different factory, different filters, independently verified, and it's one of the better fragrance-free matte finish options currently available for under $20. The filter lineup includes Tinosorb S and Tinosorb M, which are the next generation broad-spectrum filters that give it genuine photostability. I include it here not in spite of the history, but partly because of it. A brand that failed publicly, admitted it, and fixed the actual problem rather than just the marketing, is more trustworthy to me than one that's never been tested at all. Just make sure you're buying the current formulation, the Daily Soft Touch, not the old Centella. Number 3. Mary and May Cica Soothing Sun Cream, SPF 50 plus PA. Mary and May doesn't spend money making you feel anything in particular about Mary and May. There's no origin story that involves a grandmother's kitchen garden. No celebrity skin. The brand's stated philosophy is essentially less is more, meaning they put the budget into the formula and the packaging is deliberately plain. The CIC Soothing Sun Cream is built around what the brand calls an FCIC complex, a fermented Centella asiatica blend with 7 Centella derivatives, alongside niacinamide for brightening. For anyone over 45 dealing with redness, post-inflammatory marks, or a compromised barrier, Centella asiatica isn't a trend ingredient. It's one of the better researched soothing actives in the Korean formulary, and fermented versions are thought to have improved bioavailability, though I'll note the evidence on fermented actives is still building. What I can tell you definitively is that the texture absorbs without residue, leaves a finish that reads as skin rather than product, and at under $15, it is the most functional, anxiety-free sun cream I know for women dealing with reactive skin. Availability is primarily online, Olive Young, Yes Style, and the brand's direct site, so this isn't something you're picking up at a drugstore on the way out the door. Number 4. Haru Haru Wonder Black Rice. Moisture, Airy Fit, Sunscreen, SPF, 50 plus PA. Here's why this one belongs on the list. It is one of the few Korean sunscreens that is not a Colmar formula. Most of the names you know, and we'll get to some of them, share a core filter system because they're coming out of the same manufacturing infrastructure. Haru Haru Wonder developed their own filter combination independently, and the result is a formula that registers as slightly more moisturizing than the Colmar family sunscreens while finishing matte. Black rice extract is the hero ingredient. It's high in antioxidants, specifically anthocyanins, and it contributes to that slightly richer skin feel without adding heaviness. The brand is certified vegan and cruelty-free, which matters to a meaningful portion of this audience. The important caveat: because of its richer texture, it tends to work better for normal to dry skin than for oily skin in humid weather. It's also worth noting that Haru Haru Wonder is a genuinely independent Korean brand with no major conglomerate ownership as of this writing, which is rarer than it used to be in K-beauty. Fragrance-free, around $14 to $18, consistently under talked about. Number 5. Anua Heartleaf Silky Moisture, mild sunscreen SPF 50 plus. Anua has become somewhat more visible in the last couple of years, largely off the strength of their Heartleaf toner, so calling this ignored might be a slight overstatement. But their sunscreen, specifically the US version formulated to FDA compliant filters, is still dramatically undershopped relative to what it delivers. The US version uses avobenzone as its UVA filter, stabilized by octocrylene, which is the standard workaround while the next generation of filters waits for FDA approval. What distinguishes this formula is the supporting cast. Multiple forms of hyaluronic acid, heartleaf extract, panthenol, and a texture that genuinely melts in rather than sitting on top. It's fragrance-free, it's vegan, and Anua has kept it accessible at Ulta, which means this is one of the few options on this list you can pick up physically in the US without waiting for international shipping. The honest note: if you're buying the Korean market version, you'll get access to the next generation filter system. The US version works well. It's just working with older tools. Know which you're ordering? Number 6. Isn't Tree Hyaluronic Acid Watery Sun Gel SPF 50 plus PA. Isn't Tree is a Korean brand that describes itself as a green beauty label. They focus on minimal, effective ingredients and sustainable packaging choices. The watery sun gel built a quiet reputation among skincare researchers and formulators before it built a consumer following, which is a good sign. It contains 8 different molecular weights of hyaluronic acid, ranging from larger surface-level molecules down to smaller ones that can penetrate more deeply, which is why it feels genuinely more hydrating than most sunscreens in this category, rather than just watery. It's also one of the more consistently fragrance-free options. No essential oils, no synthetic fragrance, and it's shown to have good performance under independent lab testing. The limitation is real. This is a dewy formula, and oily skin types may find it too rich by midday, especially in summer humidity. For dry or normal to combination skin, it's exceptional. You can find it on Amazon and on sites like Olive Young and Yes Style, around $14 to $20, depending on where you buy. Slightly pricier than the bottom of this list, but the formula justifies the gap. Number 7. Round Lab Birch Juice Moisturizing Sun Cream SPF 50 plus PA. This one comes with a piece of structural information that I find genuinely fascinating. Round Lab Sunscreen and Beauty of Joseon Sunscreen, two of the most popular Korean sunscreens in the Western market, are made by the same manufacturer, Kolmar Korea, and share the same core UV filter system. The differences are in the bonus ingredients and the finish, not in the fundamental protection architecture. Round Lab uses birch sap as its hero ingredient. Birch juice is rich in minerals and has demonstrated soothing and antioxidant properties in the formulation context. The original Round Lab sunscreen, for those keeping historical notes, was actually pulled in 2020 because its original manufacturer had falsified SPF data, a different scandal from the Purito situation, same underlying failure. The current formulation is manufactured by Kolmar and is independently tested. I'm telling you this not to alarm you, but because I think you deserve to know the full story, rather than a curated one. The current product has verified ratings and is one of the most used daily sunscreens in Korea itself. For the US market, Round Lab has launched an FDA-compliant version under the name Birch Juice Moisturizing UV Lock SPF 45, around $13 to $17. One of the most genuinely pleasant textures in this entire category. And number 8, the one I told you to wait for, Beauty of Joseon Relief. Sun. Rice plus probiotics. SPF 50 plus PA. Here's why I saved this for last. And it isn't the formula, though the formula is excellent. Beauty of Joseon, the brand that has become the shorthand for Korean sunscreen on the entire Western internet, was acquired by a Korean cosmetics company. That company is not some scrappy indie group, but what makes this ending interesting is what that acquisition actually reveals about the Korean manufacturing story. Beauty of Joseon shares its UV filter system and Colmar Manufacturing with Round Lab. They share the same core protection infrastructure. The difference in price, Beauty of Joseon typically runs $1 or $2 more than Round Lab, reflects branding, not protection. That's not a criticism of Beauty of Joseon. The formula genuinely works. It's a silky, nearly invisible finish with rice extract for brightening and probiotics for barrier support. And it's the sunscreen that a sitting U.S. Congresswoman once called her ride or die and asked constituents to contact their representatives about the FDA filter situation. When an elected official goes on the record about a sunscreen filter's regulatory status, you are probably looking at a product that does something worth noticing. The real point of naming it last, though, is this. When you understand that Beauty of Joses and Round Lab are siblings in the manufacturing sense, same factory lineage, same filter core, different botanical ingredients, you understand that what you're choosing between on this list is not better or worse protection. You're choosing a texture, a finish, a bonus ingredient, and an aesthetic. The formula is almost never the expensive part. Here is how I'd actually use this information. First, pick your texture. Then, everything else. Dewy finish and you need hydration. Isn't Tree, Round Lab, or Beauty of Josella? Matte finish because your skin runs oily or you live somewhere humid. Tokobo or Purito. Sensitive or reactive skin that reddens easily. Mary and May CICA or Haru Haru Wonder. That's the whole decision tree. Second, when you apply your sunscreen, pat it in rather than rub it. This isn't a ceremonial suggestion. Patting distributes the product without mechanically disrupting the UV film the way heavy rubbing can. It also forces you to apply enough because you can feel if you've got the right amount. A teaspoon for the face and neck. Most people use about a third of that. The sunscreen that actually works is the one that's actually on your skin in sufficient quantity. Third, treat your sunscreen as the final skincare step, not the first makeup step. In Korean routine logic, you're building thin to thick, lighter, more watery layers first, finishing with sunscreen as a protective seal. Then, if you're wearing makeup, that goes over. This sequence matters more than any single ingredient. Fourth, buy through verified channels. Several of these are popular enough to have counterfeit markets on platforms that aggregate third-party sellers. Order from the brand's direct site, from Olive Young, Yes Style, or Stylevana, which are established Korean beauty retailers. If a deal seems dramatically better than everywhere else, it's worth the skepticism. Now, for the part I'd rather skip but won't, because I think it respects your intelligence. Availability for some of these genuinely shifts by region and by season. What's in stock today may be temporarily out of stock in 3 months, or reformulated. Or the US version may differ from the Korean version in the UV filters it uses. Treat this list as a map of what to look for. Specific brands with established track records in a particular category, rather than a guaranteed shopping list with guaranteed results on your specific skin. Patch test any new formula before committing to your face, especially if you have reactive or sensitized skin. That's not a legal disclaimer. That's basic skincare. And one more thing, because I genuinely care whether you're protected, the most important sunscreen attribute is still the one you'll actually use. A theoretically perfect formula in a drawer does nothing. These 8 are on this list partly because the textures are pleasant enough that people actually reach for them. That's a formulation value, not a luxury. It is, in fact, the whole argument. This is the part of the story that I think gets lost in every sunscreen list, every ingredient ranking, every dupes for video that this category produces. The category has never been organized around protection. It's been organized around the theater of protection, around what feels medical enough, premium enough, serious enough, packaged well enough to justify the price tag on the shelf. Korea didn't reinvent sunscreen science. They applied the available filter technology to produce something you'd actually want to use every day. That decision, to optimize for wearability, is why 16-year-olds in Seoul are wearing SPF 50 before school, and why dermatologists in Seoul are looking at their patients in their 50s and saying something remarkable about what consistent, daily, actually applied sun protection produces over time. The formula is almost never the expensive part. And if someone offers you $42 worth of theater while $14 of formula sits 3 clicks away doing the same job on your skin, well, now you know enough to choose. Tell me in the comments which of these you've been quietly using for years without telling anyone, and which brand you're finally ready to stop overpaying for. I want to know both answers. If you're new here, this channel is about exactly this conversation. What's actually in the bottle? What the industry looks like from the inside. Subscribe if that's where you want to spend your time. Next week, we're talking about what the ingredient panels on your ceramide moisturizers are actually telling you, and whether the price you paid bought you the ceramides you think it did. You're going to want to be here for that one. Share.